Brilliant. Here we go. So what I'm going to be doing here on this is I'm going to be sharing a program that I made. It's a program in its own self. And it's essentially a learning how to learn program. But it's also a preparation program for taking Way of Impeccability or any of the Mourners project courses and programs. It's what we want to know before we take a program. Now, what I'm going to be sharing isn't only pertinent and relevant and useful to somebody who's looking to do Way of Impeccability. Because that's principally what it's geared towards, even though, yes, it could be also the Mourners projects, but Way of Impeccability kind of needs to be done before taking those, because it's such a core program. It's such a big deal. It's so essential. So what I'm going to be sharing is not only useful if you're looking to do Way of Impeccability, but it's useful to know and very valuable to know before doing any program. And it's also very valuable information to know simply if you're working with yourself. Oh, dang it, excuse me. If you're working with yourself and you can't do a program because of time or money or whatever, but this is very valuable stuff to know. So as I go through this, I highly encourage anybody to take notes, and in particular in this first section that we are going to be covering today. And we'll start in that in a moment. I'll emphasize in a moment. Before I do that, I just want to say, just introduce Bina, because, yes, I know Norma and Cheryl and Erica Jane and, all the other participants, they know who Bina is. But Bina is I don't know, by now, she came and did Way of Impeccability as a beta tester and then basically just stayed. So Bina's done all of it. And probably, I don't know, how many times have we probably done Way of Impeccability by now, Bina? I don't know, probably at least a
I don't
dozen
know.
times, right?
Yes.
So hello, Bina. I'm glad you're here too. I'm glad you're here too. And this is most excellent. I just love it that you're here. Fantastic. All right, so let's get going. So we'll start off here, and we've got a nice quote here. Learning how to learn is the crux of learning. Absolutely. If we don't know how to learn, our efforts, no matter how keen we are, how enthusiastic we are, how intense we are, doesn't matter. Our efforts can be massively wasted. And that's really sad to me. This is a terrible, terrible thing to have that enthusiasm, that excitement, that energy be wasted because we just don't have the right tools. It's like trying to build a house with children's toy tools. It's not very effective. Yes, tends to be a bit of a waste of time. They're very critical, very, very critical. All right. So the contents here, we've got an introduction, which we'll go through in a moment. And then today we are going to be doing the program promises, focusing on that. And then next week, we'll do how to take and do the course and programs content. And then lastly, essential understandings and awarenesses for learning and growing. And a little bit of a conclusion. All right. So today, just the introduction. Before I get started here, anybody have any comments, anything to say, anything to share? Bina, anything before I get going?
No, please do start that, because I know that other peoples are also watching that, and they might
Okay.
have some questions. And
All
yeah,
right.
but we all are keen to know first what you are going to share.
All right. All right. There we
Please
go.
do start that.
Okay.
Yes.
Introduction. The following details what's required for the taking and doing of Way of Impeccability, any of the Mourners Project programs, or any of the other courses, and any course you may wish to do, and to be gone through thoroughly before starting your course or program. Again, this isn't particular only to Way of Impeccability. Yes, it is focused and geared towards that, but you can extend it to anything, right? I just want to make this very clear. Yes, of course, in Way of Impeccability, you're going to get more than you don't normally get, but that you'll see it later on. There's a lot to it, so come on Zoom to discuss it as you go through it. Again, this is focused towards somebody who is going to be doing Way of Impeccability or is really keen to do so. So this program is really designed to be done on Zoom with somebody so that I can get your questions, get your feedback, say, oh, I'm not clear on this, I expand a bit more and customize it to you. So even though somebody going through this now might decide to start doing a Way of Impeccability, you're still going to come on Zoom and we're still going to go over this to have it particular and custom to you. This customizing is very, very, very important. That's the problem with so many courses and programs. They're just simply generic. And if it's not customized to you, it's very difficult to get that particular learning. Since Cheryl and Erica Jane are both here, you can ask them in questions there how what they connect to, and they know sometimes we overlap, and they both aren't together, and you can ask them how different things in the program is different for them. And Bina can tell you, because she's on most of the time when we do the Zoom sessions, and she can see that sometimes we talk about the exact same thing, but it responds and connects completely differently to different participants. This customization is absolutely critical. So I have to really emphasize this. There's a lot to it, so come on Zoom to discuss it as you go through. Now, of course, this is applies not to everybody, but if that is so, know that this is applying to you. Applying as you go, setting up the basic premises for the entirety of the life change and self-change, which is the intent of any of our courses and programs, is most critical. And this applies to even if you aren't doing a course, right? It's absolutely clear that you have your basic premises set up. That's what we're going to be doing. Not a journey that can be undertaken without thorough and careful preparation. Yes. So if we think of life change and self-change, and again, Erica, Jane, and Cheryl, I'm really have you two in mind here today, because you are here and you both have undergone such profound life changes. And that journey, you can think of it like journeys in the old days when you were setting out to cross the ocean. And then when you get to the other side, you may have to cross a continent, in the old days of people immigrating or explorers or things like this, right? Or just going to a new country like the immigrants that came, right? This is a profound journey. Now, if you just get on the ship with just, your overnight bag, this is not going to be a good idea. You're going to start a whole new life. This is a profound journey. So to be prepared and have tools that will enable you to start anew, this is profound. And this is exactly what we are all about, right? We want to have those tools that enable us to actually take the journey, right? So we want journeying tools, like, for instance, a compass, very, very important. But when it comes to life change and self-change, how many of us have compasses for self-change and life change? This is what we're going to do. Not just compasses, but, a good pair of walking shoes or stuff like this. You need to have the proper tools if you're going to undertake such profound journeys. The following fundamentals are most critical and a massive part of what makes these programs and courses so transformative and powerful. Massive. All right, we'll go to the next slide in a moment. I just want to say, Bina, if somebody does comment there or has something to say, please just tell me, because I'm looking at the screen only. I can't see what's underneath.
Yes, sure, I will.
Thank you. And jump in anytime if you have anything to add or any comments. Yeah, please feel free.
Yes,
please feel free. I'm keen to know from Cheryl and Erica Jane and Norma, from you also. What connects or what resonates.
Is also there.
Who's also there?
Yes. Janelle and Ryan is also here.
Brilliant. Hello, Janelle and Ryan. Who else?
Sure.
Fantastic. I love it. Massive. Excellent. Hello, Sure. Magic. Hello, Janelle. Hello, Ryan. I'm most pleased that you guys are here. This is an excellent refresher for you guys. Yeah, specifically now, Ryan and Janelle. Yeah, because, we started, but we didn't get to finish. So, life gets in the way sometimes, but this is a very, very good refresher. Very powerful. Most pleased to hear. All right, to continue on the introduction. The programs and courses make many promises, and not only mine, but anyone. It's not exaggeration or hyperbole, but what happens if you do the programs and courses as intended. That's emphasized here, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Not only in my programs and courses, and particularly in Way of Impeccability, but any course and program. be sure you do it as intended if you wish to get the results promised. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily will get them. Some people just make promises and they just want your money and they don't really care. So it's very important also to look at people who have done the course to say, did you get what's promised? And I feel very confident that if you ask participants, like Sher, Erica, Jane, Cheryl, who've done the courses and finished the courses, well, some are still busy, but did you get what's promised? I promise you they will say yes. Right, Bina? I mean, you certainly can testify to this, yes?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right, right. And
This
maybe
is
even,
something I can say with absolute certainty that yes,
yes.
every
Okay,
single promise, even more than what has been promised to us,
exactly.
has been fulfilled.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Because we'll get into this maybe a bit later, but the main reason for this is because the programs aren't teaching in the usual way. I don't see that I'm doing this. No, I'm sharing. But what I'm doing is enabling. I'm sharing tools, how to use tools, and sharing those tools, making them available to you, the individual. You then take those tools and put it in your toolbox. But you also learn how to use the tools. It's no good just stuffing your toolbox of tools and don't know how to use them. You need to know how to use them. This is what we're doing now. This is on how to use tools, we could call this program that we are busy now. Very, very, very important. And that's why you get more, because once you learn to use the tools, you're the one who really determines how much you get out of it. And it's not that difficult either. It becomes a joy and fun and exciting. It's very profound. Lots of fun stuff. All right. So this doing the courses as intended, that's crucial, most crucial. There's much, an incredible depth and sophistication to how you are asked to do the programs and courses. Now, this may be somewhat particular to me and Way of Impeccability. I don't know anybody else who does things the way that we do them in Way of Impeccability. There are very particular ways of doing it, and we'll get into that next week. And those are fairly unique. And that how makes a massive difference. But this, of course, you can apply on your own self or to other programs if you wish to, right? Might take a bit of doing, but you could. As we go along, the underlying moreness will be explained, revealed, and come clear. It's way too much to share now, and that's a large, extensive program all in itself. For now, we ask you to trust and so we ask your trust and commitment to do the programs and courses as intended. So initially, there's always that element of trust and commitment. This program is going to massively lessen the need for that trust. So you only have to trust a little bit, because I'm going to explain exactly how everything works and you can see it for yourself, and okay, there you go. But still, there's always that bit of trust and commitment. And it's very important to give that. Very essential, because if you hold it back, you don't really do the thing thoroughly, and you never know if you got what was got the maximum, because you didn't quite give your all. So giving your all and that trust that's included, very important, right? Uh, the promises promised are many, yes. However, on going through them, you'll come to see the moreness included, and the promises are in a way self-proving, as they show the depth involved and thereby illustrate the underlying sophistication. As you go through what's promised to you, please make a note of what deeply connects and resonates. It's vitally important. So this is really key on this next program. That's what I was saying earlier. As we go through these promises, be sure to make a note, because that will give you insight into yourself. As you hear what's being promised or what's to come, promise is a big word here, but it's what's to come. It's not really a promise. I'm stating an actuality, really. But if you say, "Oh man, that really connects to me. I want that. That's something that's really important." You get to know what's important to you. And once you know what's important to you, learning is very, very easy. Yes, because then you start to pursue what's important to you. And now learning is a joy. It's a pleasure. Not only that, but your brain is more receptive. It's emphasized to receive what's coming. So all of the learning then that is connected to what's important to you becomes pertinent and relevant, and again emphasizes the brain. And we'll get into emphasis at the end part in week 3. And this, you'll see how critical emphasis is. So it's all connected. This is all connected and all works together. It's very powerful. All right, so we have a quote here. Yes. And those lessons are so fun and exciting once we embrace them fully. I see the end point of our lessons as learning how to play in everything we do. Once we know how to play with the fullness of ourselves, how to set up play, how to create play, to always be in play, then I believe we'll be ready for the next stage of our lives. Perfect quote, because I want to emphasize that, at least from my perspective, and when we do Way of Impeccability, yes, we are very serious, we are very earnest, and sobriety is a big deal. We are very intense, but it's also play. And doing the programming, like when we come on Zoom and where 90% of it takes place, this is a massive, massive, massive joy. And, again, the participants, they will attest to this, right? If you don't believe me, ask them. So I think I have a few other quotes underneath here, but they are just kind of extra for fun. So I won't get into them right now. All right. So here we go. Let's start with the promises. First of all, peace of being. Bina, when Sue came on before starting Way of Impeccability, when she was exploring, coming to check it out and find out what more about it, she asked you, as somebody who had already done Way of Impeccability, she said, Bina, what did you get out of it? What was your
Yes,
answer?
peace of being.
So very important, right? Very important.
Exactly.
A-
It's,
And
it's
and and Sue said,
very
"Oh,
important.
that's what I want." Yes. And
Yes.
Sue, I hope you are attending or watch this at some point. I know Sue's very busy, so she might not be able to make it. But I know she has peace of being and has found it, and it's a very big deal in her life. Not only peace of being, but also the very next one, meaning, purpose, and significance, or as we like to call it, MPS, which also stands for magic per second, right? Oh, there I say. I'll say it in the next line. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Also known as magic per second and moreness per second. So MPS, standing for meaning, purpose, and significance, is a very cool acronym. It's really powerful, and I love those. They're very useful. But also standing for magic per second and moreness per second. We really mean this, right? And when I say magic here, I mean the magic of the magic of moreness, the magic of connectivity, the magic of understanding, the magic of discernment, the magic of getting it, the magic of change, right? It's all magics to me. Yes, there are lots of magics in the world. I look at my phone, that's an incredible magic to me. All sorts of things. What we're doing right now is, communicating all around the world in live, real time. Magical, magical, magical. So if you don't believe in magic, as Biela says, for heaven's sake, broaden your definition. There's lots of magic in the world. Very important to connect to it. Or moreness. If you don't like magic, moreness, same thing. Similar. Developing. So the next promise here is, or the next thing that's going to happen. Promises. I said, I'm saying promises because I want to be as honest as I can, because this is inherent in Way of Impeccability, and not skimp on anything. So I could say, well, these are actualities, not promises. But all right, yeah. So that's why I use the word promises here, just so that I'm being clear that this is something that's going to happen. The next one is developing your ability to better deal with intense, overwhelming situations in personal, professional, and everyday life, and changing them into positive happenings in your favor. Now, how did I come to this particular one? This was not specifically and necessarily in my intent way back when I set up Way of Impeccability. To say, wow, this is what I want to deal with. This is what I want to. No. Where did that come from? This came specifically from participants, from their results, right? In their various different ways. This is what they have communicated back to me, that they've developed the ability to better deal with intense, overwhelming situations in their personal, professional, and everyday life. And changing those, morphing it, shifting it from where before it was stressful and hurtful and upsetting and discombobulating and put you out of things and all sorts of stuff, to now they've developed that skill and ability, which is so inherent in Way of Impeccability, to transform it into positive happenings in their favor. This is profound. And, just the stories I've heard of how this happens, talk about magical stories. Oh man, gifts, capital G gifts, as we call them, right? Because we like capitalized things, not because we like capitalizing, but because they have a special meaning. So when I say capital G gift, I mean something that comes from moreness, comes from the universe, or comes from whatever in terms of your belief is that there's the moreness out there, your deep self, if you want, your subconscious, doesn't matter. Capital G gift is something special, something unusual, something out of the ordinary. That is a profound gift of learning, or gift of moreness, a gift of awareness, gift of intent. Very, very, very powerful. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So right here on this very next point, I won't let me highlight it. But again, Bina, deliberate living. Has your life become more deliberate? Capital D, deliberate. Yes. Has it?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And how does that make a difference?
It's a huge difference. I feel empowered. I feel that I am the whole soul authority and in charge of my own life.
Exactly. Exactly. I had no idea what Bina was going to say. I was like, oh, you know what? Sometimes, I ask questions like this, and it's kind of put people on the spot. And so I
No.
had no idea, but that's it. Exactly. Empowered. Deliberate living empowers us. It adds joy and power, especially to what we do. It makes it meaningful, purposeful, and significant. So deliberate living is a huge deal. And this is the subtitle for Way of Impeccability. It's a toolbox for deliberate living. It's not idly chosen that. There's lots and lots went into that, because to find something that summarizes something as vast and as complex and as sophisticated as Way of Impeccability, to put it into a simple one-liner, that's very difficult. So a toolbox for deliberate living. Yes, and deliberate living is absolutely critical if we are going to get the most out of life. Yes, most of us do not live deliberately, and we waste life, sadly to say, right? But, each to their own. Still, I'm simply saying, if you really look at people who are having fun and really empowered and getting magic and moreness, you'll see they're living deliberately. All right, so the next point here is to become your own guru, life coach, etc., by developing skills of understanding what was not obvious before and self-creating what was not available before. This is so key. This is the underlying absolute key principle, or psychology or philosophy of what I do. To me, it's not about teaching you something. It's not about giving you a set of beliefs. No, no belief required. No, absolutely nothing. No, no, no. I don't want you to believe me. And I'll say to the participants on a regular basis, all of them will tell you this. Please do not believe me. Yeah. Don't believe me at all. No, you've got to make sense of things. But this is the point here. The tools that you are going to learn in the program itself, not the tools we're going to learn here, are tools for learning how to learn to become your own guru. Right? So this is apps, or your own life coach, or whatever. It's very important we know how to learn for ourselves, how to make ourselves into more. And for that, all we need is the tools. We only need to get started. And this is what everything is about. So what we are doing now is not the start itself, but preparing for the start, right? So we haven't started our life change journey yet. This is the preparation for that. So starting on the start, right? Or starting to prepare. So yes, a door to more. It's a simple promise here. But this is one that, again, you can ask any of the participants. Did you encounter more? And they'll say, hell yes. Did you imagine that you would encounter some of the stuff that you did? No, not really, right? So this is very important. And one of the things that's very, very critical as part of our learning is that receptivity to say, I do not know enough. So sometimes with some participants, it takes a little while before they can unhook from this idea of theirs that they might have, that I kind of know what's going on, especially like, sometimes when people they're a life coach themselves already, because the program is certainly absolutely geared towards anybody who is a life coach, or even, you could be a CEO, anybody who's in a position of leadership. They sometimes think they kind of know what's going on, but then they come and they take this and they realize, oh my goodness, I didn't know nearly as much as I thought. And that takes a little bit of overcoming to do. And we all have this. We all are fairly competent or satisfied in our lives. We feel like we sort of know how the world works. But this door to more, we start to realize, no, you know what? The world and life does not work the way I think it does. And that's an important point to hold on to, because there's always more. If we start to think and believe we know how it works, then we get stuck. This is very, very, very critical. So really what I ask is come into a program, and not just mine, any program. Or if you're doing this on your own without a program, simply say, I'm a nincompoop and I don't know what the hell is going on. Start from that point of view. Start from this understanding that you do not know. This is going to help you immensely. It will open you up to that which you don't even imagine you should be open to or need be open to. I don't care for that word should, right? Or that would be useful to be open to. So it's very important to reset this idea that we know what's going on. Many of us insist on feeling or claiming that we know what's going on. Why? Because if we let go of that, we feel we might be overwhelmed by how much we don't know. You weren't that way as a child. As a child, you knew you didn't know what was going on. You knew you needed to learn. You knew you were ignorant. But did that overwhelm you? Did that make you fearful? No. You just made you keen to learn. That's the point that I am keen to get anybody who's interested in learning, which means this is anybody who is a part of the SASSY group, or just anybody who's interested in learning and self-improvement, personal development, etc. Start from that point. Go back to that psychology of when you were a young child and eager to learn, where learning and play was one and the same, right? This is very, very, very critical. All right, we'll come back to this again more. So the next point is to learn to leverage yourself and your life to access more than usual. This is a very big deal. Self-leverage. When did you ever hear of this conception of self-leverage? Or just leverage, just leveraging something. What the hell do you mean leverage? You know, when I use a lever, okay, I think of there's a lever on my car jack going up. All right, well, okay, that's leverage, I guess. You know, what does this mean? It means to use a little effort to get a return on that effort that you wouldn't get without the leverage, right? So there's a big, massive boulder in my path. I push on this boulder to get it out. It's too heavy. It's blocking my path. I can't do that, right? But I find the lever and whoop, I put it in and bingo, there it moves. Hang on a second. How did that happen? I used all my strength. I made massive effort. I was sweating and creaking and my bones and joints were popping to move this boulder. Nothing happened. But as soon as I put the lever in, I went, phew, easy, poof, then the thing moved. It is using your energy in a particular way. So a little energy gives you a big result. This is what leveraging is. It transforms your energy and focuses it. It doesn't create new energy, but it allows you to use your energy, your attention, your awareness, etc., appropriately, effectively, and efficiently. And this is massive, right? And when we learn this skill, oh my goodness, we make our lives easier. If you don't understand leverage, look it up, right? And also look up and understand how leverage makes your life easier, how almost nothing mechanical can work without leverage, right? Your car, your steering wheel, this is profound leverage, right? All the gears, profound leverage. There's very direct leverage, but we have indirect leverage. Zoom is a massive, non-physical leverage mechanism. Yes, it enables us to do so much more with very little effort. Yes, very powerful. But we can learn it in a personal point of view too, how to leverage things. This is a big topic, and of course, I'm just making this as now to make aware this is something that you are going to get access to and going to understand. We'll go into it in detail and all this. It's a big point. I get a bit carried away here because I'm explaining the points, and I really should just be talking about what's going to come rather than share it itself. But anyway, it's my enthusiasm for the topic. I love leverage. I love leverage because our energy is precious and we only have so much of it. So we need to learn to use it to the absolute best effect. And this is, of course, one of the core definitions of impeccability. to make the best use of your energy, right? So this applies in a physical way, like with the lever and the rock, and it also applies in an abstract, metaphorical way, like with Zoom or with personal learning points. Learning how to leverage my attention, or to leverage my interest in things, to leverage my motivations, even to leverage my negative moods, to learn to change them around and so on. So many, many ways leverage is very powerful. I love this next one here. To be your own mood generator by acquiring skills to not only manage your mood, but also be able to create a mood of your own choice. How many people, I think this was asked in group, or somebody actually made a comment or a post where they said, yeah, but you can't choose your moods. And I was like, wait, you can. You absolutely can. So many believe that their moods are determined by external events, by situations, circumstances, even their history and all this stuff. Yes, those can determine your moods and do, but they aren't the only things which can determine your moods. You can learn to be your own mood generator and choose your moods. This is a powerful, powerful skill. And it connects to many other things that you will be acquiring, like habit management, association management, all sorts of different things. So it all ties together. Right. So it's very powerful. And of course, being your own mood generator comes to the next point, which is acquiring energy management, as energy is everything. You aren't going to mood manage if you don't know how to energy manage. You cannot have joy or fun when you are low energy, right? And this is a very important point. Very, very, very important point. We tend, when we are low energy, we default to being negative. Why? Because it takes less energy. But why would you say, why inherently is negativity less energy than positivity? It's not so on an actual basis. It's just the way the brain is set up. Our original brain, what some people call the lizard brain or the brain stem, right? Which now it's still there. It's like in your computer's processor, right? The newer processors include versions of the older processors. Why? For backward compatibility. Your brain did the same thing. It didn't completely just discard and throw away the old brain. It simply developed new brains on top of that. So you actually look at your brain, you'll see you've got a whole bunch of different brains. It's not one brain, it's a whole bunch of them actually. And new brains kept on developing, but it kept the old ones. A little tiny thing at the bottom of your brain back here, brainstem. Now, that brain is your animal brain, which was just involved in survival and fighting for food and all this, right? And that's a brain that's totally connected to the superiority paradigm because, well, you know what, you got to fight for your food and you got to grab it and you push the other guy down and you get more food. Well, all right. So it's a very negative brain in its inherent understanding because it's very limited, it's very short-sighted. So that's when you get tired. The bigger brains, the newer brains, which take lots of energy, they start shutting down and you start to go towards that primitive brain. So be very aware of this. Again, of course, as we go into it, to do the programs, we get to this. Now, again, I'm giving way more here than what I'm trying to do, but I want to make this so clear how exquisitely important energy management is. And if you understand, so I won't be doing this on all the points, but this is a good one to illustrate. When you understand what's behind it, you get that moreness understanding. And it's like, I see now. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And that's what we're about. Self-evident sensibility. I don't want you to believe me. It's self-evidently sensible. You can go and check it out. You can go and research it. It's self-proving, in other words. This is very, 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 very powerful. All right. Before I go to the next page, anything I need to be paying attention to, Bina? Any comments?
So far, it is very much in detail, and I love that. So, and I think that everybody else is also enjoying that. So
Okay.
far, no questions. So please continue.
Yeah. All right. So please, anybody has any questions or comments, please make them. Please make them. Also, while I'm here, if you're watching this on replay, which it will be available, make your comments and questions anyway. Doesn't matter. I will see them and I will come back to them and I will respond to them, right? I'm very diligent when it comes to comments or questions and responding to them. Doesn't matter whether it's live or in replay, doesn't matter. I will respond. I will respond. Very important. I should have said that in the beginning. All right, next one. Core character training, implementation, and self-proving. This is what's going to be happening. This is what it's all about. Now, not all programs, this is very particular to Way of Impeccability. Some programs that you may be taking a course on, all right, public speaking. That's not necessarily going to be about core character training or the implementation of it and self-proving. But I can tell you this much. If you focus on core character training and the implementation of it and self-proving that training, this is a very key step, which is almost always neglected. It's an essential and critical part of Way of Impeccability. If you focus on that self-proving of your core character training and implementation, public speaking is going to be no problem, right? So sometimes we can learn a skill on the surface, but we don't realize the underlying ways of being and ways of living that greatly, massively affect this particular skill that you're going to learn. And this sadly is not understood in education, and particularly in the self-change, the life change industry, self-improvement industry. They don't get this, right? And it's sad. It's a waste. So from my perspective and Way of Impeccability perspective, I really understand this to say, work on the core fundamentals, and you will be able to apply and do pretty much whatever you want to do because you've already got your fundamental underlying skills involved. And here now, as we're going to be getting next week and the week after, we're going to be getting into the techniques and tools for learning how to learn. This is the first critical step, right? And of course, core character training is absolutely essential. I don't care how good a salesman you might learn to be. You can go to every salesman course and be a super fantastic salesman. But if you have bad character, I'm not hiring you. You may be 100 times better than any other salesman out there or anyone I've got employed. But if you got bad character, at some point you are going to do something and be dishonest and be squirrely and do all sorts of bad stuff, and you're going to wreck my business. So I'm not hiring you if you've got bad character. I don't care how good your skills are. And many forget this, right? They focus on the skill and ignore the character. Character comes first. It is critical, absolutely critical. Plus, that line there, right? Implementation and self-proving. It's not just having good character. Every one of my friends has fundamentally profound good character. They are truly good people. Does that mean they always feel free to implement their good character? No. No, you can ask them. Did you always? No, they struggled to implement their character. They were inhibited because of all sorts of. That's a long story. I won't go into why we don't implement our good character. Many reasons. Or when they were implementing it, they were doing so inappropriately. Inappropriate application of goodness. Oh my goodness, this is one of the most profound power conceptions that will be in your dictionary of power. Right? We'll get to dictionary of power later. But this implementation doesn't always happen. Furthermore, have they self-proved to themselves that they have good character? They know it, but it's not self-proved. So knowing something and kind of, well, yes, I'm a good person and I have good character, that's one thing. But having it self-proved to yourself. This now, when you say, yes, to yourself, my character is good, you're not saying it as just an idea, as a belief. No, it's a fact. It's a fact. So self-proof comes from implementation, and it all ties together. So in that sentence there are three profound, massively life-changing, self-changing conceptions. And this is a huge deal. And this is what everything that I do is geared around this, right? So this is, again, it's a promise, but it's more than a promise. This is almost a guarantee. But I don't like guarantees because you never know in life, right? So I don't care for absolutes in general. I try to avoid them. So this is very powerful, though. Very powerful. I just want to make this really clear that when we really focus on the starting point, the fundamentals, things come naturally of their own accord, right? You don't need to come at it in the reverse thing and try and learn all these particular skills. Once you have got good character, those skills come of their own accord for the most part. Yes, sometimes you got to go specifically, but for the most part, they come of their own accord, right? Learning to be deliberately childlike with sophisticated awareness. This is a profound, profound, profound promise. If you listen to Bina, and we've got many videos and stuff that I've shared already where Bina's on, we're discussing, or Erica Jane, or the other participants, right? Live stuff that we've done. If you listen, you'll hear that childlikeness, childlike, not childish, and also you'll hear the sophisticated awareness. In other words, you'll see underneath this person, you'll see their innocence, their purity, their goodness. But also you say, oh my goodness, well, they're not naive. No, they're very sophisticated, they're very aware, but they enjoy themselves. They enjoy learning. They enjoy the play of learning. They enjoy experimenting. They enjoy exploring. They enjoy discovering. They're quite happy with being childlike, which means they're happy with knowing that they don't know everything. This is not a problem. They don't feel ignorant about it. They don't feel less because they don't know. No, they just have embraced the duhness that, well, duh, I don't know everything. Does that mean I know nothing? No, doesn't mean that at all. Right? Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Many tools for leveraging, enhancing, and empowering yourself in any situation. And again, this follows on from what I was saying earlier about character training. And again, this is something that I take from the participants, that it's not just that they now find themselves able to do better in their particular thing that they're familiar with and know with. No, any situation. Right. The more you get that inner empowerment, which of course is also going to lead to self-confidence, and because you have more skills, you have more tools, how can you not be more confident? I don't mean overconfident in the usual sense, there's no ego involved, but just know that, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but I know how to learn. So I'm willing to tackle it. I'm willing to take the challenge, right? Because I know how to learn. Life is easy. So that's this, and I understand things like leveraging and paying attention and all of the other tools, right? So I can deal with pretty much any situation, right? And within limits, of course, but that we typically encounter in our lives. The next point, a profound, deliberate rebirth and transformation of ego from a clueless brat to a joy-filled power observer. Okay, so Bina, I don't want to use you as an example here, but I do feel that you can give some insight onto this point. Now, clueless brat, that's kind of harsh, yes, and I mean to be harsh here, because for me, I personally feel I was at one stage in my life a clueless brat. I didn't think so at the time, and I wasn't trying to be nasty. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was still a clueless brat. Right? I was in my own bubble. But now I've become a joy-filled power observer and also power doer, not just observer. But this is a big point, right, Bina?
Yes, exactly. I know that it's a bit harsh term to say that a clueless pet, but we all are in certain way. We all are, because
Exactly.
sometimes we are clueless about what we are intending for. We don't
Exactly.
have any clarity of intent. We are
There.
trying to be good. We are trying to do good, but we don't know that how to actually do that. So in that sense, yes, many of us are actually clueless brats, because and I was one of them, because my intent was good, but
Yes.
I actually was not aware
Yes.
that how to actually
Yes.
implement that
Yes. Yes.
and how to be appropriate.
Exactly.
So that's why, yes, I feel that. And this, thanks to Way of Impeccability, it's not about learning outside yourself. It's about learning yourself and your own potential to be a good
Yes.
person and be an impeccable person in this world. We don't try to change world, we try to change
Yes.
ourselves.
Exactly. And by changing yourself, you change the world.
Yes.
This is it. Quiet revolution. Yes, Erica Jane? That's the quiet revolution. It's
Exactly.
revolutionary to change the world.
Absolutely.
But you can do
A
it
good
quietly
picture.
by changing yourself. Yes,
Yes.
because goodness and positivity, and like anything else, like negativity also, they can be a virus. But you want to put out an appropriate virus into the world, not the inappropriate ones like negativity. Yes. And if you put out the virus of choice, wow, now you're not forcing anybody to do anything. So, yes, this is a very big, sophisticated, detailed topic. Again, it's out of our scope here. This is what the things that we're going to touch on and do. Lots of moreness. It's so much, I can't even get close to coming to all of it. But it's profound. It's a journey, right? When you do a cross-country journey, for instance, do you have any idea what you're going to meet along the way? No, none. But you know it's going to be a lot. right? This is the same way. But you want to be prepared so that you don't waste any of that moreness that's going to come your way, right? And I mean a cross-country journey like on foot, not so you're driving by stuff. Yeah, well, when you're on foot, this is more closely a closer analogy. Where was I? A connectivity to and new awareness of profound life-changing conceptions. Yeah, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. We lose out by default. What do I mean by that? I mean, we come into the world and the choices that are available to us is kind of non-existent, really, because you've been told what to do. Do this, do that, be this way, be that way, even if not directly, but through convention and through that accumulation of habit that results from simply being exposed to a limited range of choices and options, or not at all. Right? You come into it, convention, you don't really have a choice. You got to do this, you got to do that. That's the way to be. And you just sort of accept it. And we lose out by default. Why? Because we're just accepting that you don't really have a choice. And I don't mean that you feel like you're being pressured. You're kind of going along quite happily, but you don't even realize that there are other options. An analogy of this is like a fish. It's happily swimming in the water, but it doesn't realize that there are other ways of being. Now, okay, a fish may have to change in order to exist on land or in the air, to really extend this analogy. But that's the point. It doesn't even know this is an option. Now, we aren't fish. We have this capability of profound change. Psychologically, we might be fish, just always swimming in the pool that we were in. We don't even know there are rivers and oceans. We're just looping around this little pool, very limited. But we can end up in the river and in the ocean, and then from there we can even learn to fly and walk and all the stuff, right? So there's much more to life than what you came into with, right? Many more options. Very, very big deal. Very, very big deal. So it's this being aware of profound life-changing conceptions. We've already encountered many here, like moreness. Very simple conception, moreness, leverage. Wow. But when you really get into them, moreness is a philosophy. Same like leverage, a personal philosophy. I don't mean philosophy in the dry, dusty book learning stuff. No, I mean, hey, like so. My philosophy. Well, what do you like to do in life? Well, I like to play. I like to have fun. Well, there's you go. You got a philosophy. I like to learn. There you go. That's a philosophy. I like to improve. That's a philosophy. So I mean, real practical philosophy, right? Poor philosophy got a really bad name because back in the day, this meant, what you subscribe to, what's important to you, that you use in order to make your life better, right? That's really what it is, right? So philosophy originally is a love of wisdom, and wisdom is what makes your life better. So we love what makes our life better. A mechanism to leverage our information, knowledge, and understanding with deliberate awareness. This is powerful. This is a repeat somewhat of what I've said before. Big deal. A mechanism of connecting to your inner worthiness that's always been there. Ask any of the participants. Ask any of them about this point. Yes, and they will tell you, oh, I didn't learn to be worthy. I didn't suddenly discover, oh, you know what? No, I always knew it, but I never really connected to it. I never was able to fully utilize it and maximize it and bring it out. So this is it. It's there, that inner worthiness. It's always been there. We're just learning to bring it out, right? And polish it, shine it, utilize it. Yes. A way to get to know yourself better so you can live more impeccably. Very simple statement, but a big deal. Now, for anybody hearing this word impeccably and say, oh, that's going to be too much effort to live impeccably. Oh my goodness. No, nobody can be perfect. To be impeccable does not mean to be perfect. We repeat that. To be impeccable does not mean to be perfect. Matter of fact, one of the participants, which we won't particularly name, well, actually we will. Erica Jane did a magical series. It's on TikTok and Instagram, I believe, right, Erica Jane? Where she is deliberately engaging in doing things imperfectly to overcome a bit of a perfectionism mindset that she was a bit stuck in, right? This is very profound. So she was deliberately doing things imperfectly, right? And to learn to be comfortable with things not being perfect and proper and right and all the stuff. But that was a function of her impeccability. And she was being impeccable in doing so. Why? Because she was learning to make best use of her energy. To be overly concerned with this perfectionism, it drains your energy. It's not sensible. It's not realistic. It's a whole mess. So I'm trying to say that impeccability is misunderstood sometimes as being perfectionism. It's not. It's best use of your energy. You can think of impeccability as a super sensibility with a whole bunch of tools involved. And it's all connected to your integrity and more. Anyway, it's a long story to go into what impeccability means. Just for now, understand that when I say impeccability or impeccable and the way of impeccability, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's not a stressful thing. It's a joyful thing. It's about learning to use your energy to best effect. Now, when you say to learn to use your energy to best effect, wow. Of course, when you go into the details, there's a lot to that. And everything we're about here is exactly that. Every single one of these promises is about learning to use your energy in a better way than you've been doing, right? So, I mean, look at this, the previous one, a mechanism of connecting to your inner worthiness. That's always been there, right? This is a massive waste of energy to not to connect to your inner worthiness and to assume that, well, I have to learn to be worthy. Not to assume that it's already there. No, you're already worthy. So again, you see what I mean? When you really get and grasp this, say, wow, yeah, that does make your energy is going to be used much better, much better, right? So we are going to be acquiring a perfect chemistry of awareness and application. This is most important. Sometimes you'll see the memes, right? I don't know about you, but I've probably said this, and all the participants have heard me say this a zillion times already, but I've seen at least 1 trillion memes by now. Wisdom memes, right? I mean, really good memes, powerful stuff, really valuable. Has it changed me? I can't say so, really. A little bit maybe, but not profoundly. Yes, but I've seen 1 trillion of them. I'm pretty sure, at least 1 trillion, right? My point is that you can see and be aware of wisdom, of profoundness, of sublimeness, of awesomeness, and say, "Wow, man, that's really awesome. Yes, I agree with that. That's fantastic." But yet, tomorrow you see another meme and you say the same thing, and you've been doing this day in, day out, how many times? Why have you not profoundly changed from seeing all those memes? Because awareness alone is not enough. You need to apply what's going on there. And you need to balance this application and awareness, right? Can't always just get stuck in applying only, because then there's no space for moreness to come in, for newness. So you need to have a balance between the two, between awareness and application. A perfect chemistry, and I didn't use chemistry lightly here. It is when the two things fuse together, like when you have really good chemistry. And really good chemistry is, you do this, every one of you does this. Pretty much, I'm assuming that you at least make food for yourself sometimes, right? When you make a good dish of food, it is a perfect chemistry of the different ingredients. Yes. So you have an awareness of the ingredients, you put them together, that's application. The perfect chemistry gives you your magical, marvelous, best ever thing in the world, right? Your perfect dish that you make for yourself. Or maybe you go out and get it. But this, my point is that food is a very good example of perfect chemistry, right? A blend of awareness and application. Yeah, very cool. A self process of self-recognizing our moreness. Very simple, but ask some participants, like before they started, how skilled were they at self-recognizing their moreness? Not particularly. Why? Because they didn't have the vocabulary, the conceptions to do so. And a very big part of this program is going to be about acquiring and extending your conceptions that you have. And the greater our range of conceptions, the easier it is to really understand and comprehend and connect and self-recognize. That's the key here, to self-recognize your moreness. For me to tell you, you are more and you are wonderful and you're fantastic and all this, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You need to do it. Yeah. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Nobody can tell you this. I mean, they do, and they try to, and yes, it's nice to hear, but it doesn't really make a difference, right? I mean, we get lots of posts like this in group where people are saying, you are fantastic, you are loved, you are good and kind. It doesn't make a difference. You need to feel it. The people that really do feel their moreness, can self-recognize it, they live in a different world, in a different space. They are different people. So very big deal, very big deal. Becoming empowered to manage and leverage your energy impeccably and appropriately. Becoming empowered to manage and leverage your energy impeccably. Wow, 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 wow. This happens, this happens, this happens. It's not a promise, really. It's just kind of almost a guarantee. If you do the stuff, this is going to happen. It's like a duh. All you need to really do is do the doings. It's very simple. It just adds up. Very simple. Learning not only to fix problems, but to also be able to prevent problems and learn to access and create your specific power tools as per your needs and requirements to solve any problem in your life without needing any external help. Yeah. And also fix. I use fix here a bit loosely. We're in this fix mindset, but you are going to learn there are better ways of dealing with things than to be focused on fixing. You say, oh, what? Okay, yes, that'll come. Instead of trying to fix yourself, learn to create, build, and explore your real and authentic selves, not just oneself. So sometimes the best way to fix something is simply to replace it. We have to be really aware of this. Sometimes your old jalopy car that you love and it's fantastic, and yes, you can fix it, but it's still burning gas at the last century levels. Now, even if it's running perfectly, it's still using up 10, 20, 30 times more gas than a modern car would do. So fixing it, not really helping, right? You need a new car. This is the same with ourselves. We can learn to fix ourselves, but if it doesn't really work very well, okay, we need to replace it. We need to get new things. Which brings to the next point. Discover your true potential and talents. And your true potential, of course, is unlimited. But you've got to discover that. And your talents, you've got to discover that. Now, I want to make a really key point here. Some people are put off by this because they don't want the responsibility of acting on those true potential and talents. This is very key. Way of impeccability is about best use of energy. You may have all the potential in the world. We all have that potential. Doesn't mean you need to act on it? No, not necessarily. Right? So not only are you going to discover your true potential and your talents, but what's actually important to you, what matters to you. In other words, when you figure that out, you'll know how to use your energy to best effect. Right? All working together, all working together. How many more of these do I have? All right, well, the last one. Very good, very good. As I want to end, I want to try and keep it into about an hour more or less. A true and real self-awareness of who you really are. This is really potent. Now, this is going to come as a surprise what that means. Because what you think it means is what you're going to discover. It's not necessarily what you thought it means. I want to elaborate. I'm going to save some mystery here. Very, very powerful, right? So just be aware of who you really are. This is going to surprise you. Coming to actually live Way of Impeccability. All right, this applies specifically to Way of Impeccability, but if you're really interested in self-change and life change, at least I hope, if you are doing some other program, that it's going to in some way get you to live this way. Right now, they're not focused on that, so maybe not, but this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. It's massively transformative. Living as a spirit warrior or your own version. Spirit warrior, just a term I use because I got to choose one, more or less, for convenience. But, being as a power learner, others are spirit dancers. Everyone has their own life conception, and as part of the program, it's a big deal. And you can have multiple, like being a life detective. Like me, I see myself as a spirit warrior, as a life detective, as a power learner, all as appropriate. But living as this moreness conception, this is a big deal. Now, again, this is a whole module in Way of Impeccability. It's a massive, massive, huge, big, great, big, important topic. So the benefit, though, the promise is that you'll end up living as your own version of your moreness conception. Very, very, very big deal, right? detailed understandings of life-changing concepts, which really is wisdom. Yes. This is a very big point. And again, next week we're going to get into it when we go into the specifics of it, like, for instance, the Dictionary of Power. We're going to see how that all fits together. Making sense of life, the world, and your deep self. Wow. Wait a second. So, are you saying you're going to say, answer the big questions in life? What's the meaning of life and so on? Yes. Yes. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sense of life, the world, and your deep self. Yeah. Yeah. This is, it sounds like a huge promise, but what I will promise you is that when we get to that point, you're going to say, oh, wow, that's kind of actually a duh. Oh, wow, I actually kind of knew that sort of in a roundabout way. I knew it, but I didn't quite. But now that it's sort of like clear, oh, wow, it's kind of a duh. And there's no belief involved. You're going to say to yourself, oh, yeah, you're going to put it all together and you're going to, well, yeah. And then, okay, yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Okay, wow. Oh, I see now. Oh, life makes sense. Okay. Big deal. Big deal. Not only life, but the world and your deep self. This is a massive deal. Of course, there's a lot to this. It's a big, big thing, but it's a very, very profound deal. Because when we do make sense of life, the world, and our deep self, of course, we go right back to the very first promise, which was peace of being. Yes, Bina? Peace of being comes from making sense of life, the world, and your deep self, right, Bina?
Yes, absolutely.
Very big deal. Very big deal. Obtaining overview, abstract perspectives of how life works. I can just hear some people go, overview life perspectives. Oh my goodness, what the hell does that mean? Oh, that sounds too complicated. That's like fancy stuff. Oh, big words. Oh my hell, what the hell is he talking about? Uh, don't be put off, right? It sounds like a big deal, but really, when you come back down to it, you're going to see how simple and how awesome this is. Yes. You already use these in your life, you just don't realize it. So, but when you kind of get it, again, you're going to have that kind of, oh, duh. So we love this duh. It's a big, big part of what we do. We aim to get you to that point where you go, well, duh. Yeah. You say, well, if you're saying duh, I'm sharing something that's obvious. Yes, I am. My job is typically is making the obvious obvious. You say, yeah, but why do you need to do that? Why? Because the obvious is not always obvious until it is obvious. So think of that moment when things become obvious and then go rewind, just go, and you go to that second before it became obvious. Did you know what was going on then? Was it? No, it wasn't. You were kind of in a bubble and clueless and like, what? And then, okay. Now suddenly that obviousness is retroactive. Suddenly the past, you weren't clueless in the past, you weren't confused in the past. It all makes sense, right? So obviousness works backward in time. It's really fascinating how that works, right? It's kind of amazing. And you don't feel like you've learned anything when you acquire the obvious, but of course you have. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Um, so yeah, so don't worry about this overview, abstract perspectives. It's going to come clear, and it will be a duh at that point. Connecting to and understanding the underlying psychology and sobriety of the spirit warrior's way. Again, this is particular to Way of Impeccability, but I want to say, if you are doing another program, I hope that you will connect to the underlying psychology and the underlying sobriety of whatever it is that you're engaged in. Or if you're doing this on your own, pay attention to the underlying psychology and the underlying sobriety. And sobriety, I mean here as a super sensibility, nothing to do with alcohol, right? Super sensibility. This is sobriety. It's a very powerful concept. Again, something we go into in detail when we get to that point. But this is very important to understand this and connect to this so that you know the underlying stuff. If you know how the underlying works, everything else follows. Very easy. Self-defining a usable, practical, detailed, power-filled way of living. Do you have this in your life now? Do you have a self-defined, usable, practical, detailed, power-filled way of living? Do you have one that's not even self-defined? Yeah. Do you have a usable, practical, detailed, powerful way of living? Do you have this available to you? Most people will say no, right? So yeah, they may have detailed They may have extensive, but is it usable and practical? Almost always, no. And is it powerful? It may promise that, but is it actually so? Typically, no as well. Now, why is self-defined there? This is the key. There's many, at least many coaches and gurus and whatever. They will say, oh, well, I've got a usable, practical, detailed, powerful way of living for you. Here we go. This is it. This is what you got to do. And just believe me, but that's the point. You're going to then have what their idea of it is, right? And you're going to be living their life, what's important to them, and also. You can't live somebody else's life. That's why it has to be self-defined. This single point I cannot emphasize enough. It is what I do that makes it so different, or it's what makes so different what I do. That I'm focused on enabling you to self-define a usable, practical, detailed, powerful way of living. You need to do it, not me. You need to do it. I'm going to supply the tools, yes, and maybe some hints and suggestions and stuff. Okay, you know what? This has worked for me. This works for most people. But at the end of the day, you're going to look at that and say, does this work for me? Let me think it through. You're going to learn to think it through to the end, and perspective shift on it, and all sorts of tools. We're going to get to those, right? But you're going to decide, yes, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. When you decide it makes sense, that's when you use it. How many things haven't you acquired in your life from somebody else? Do you actually use them? No. Right? So I think it was Tony Robbins. He wrote a self-help book, and he sold it, right? And it was a massive hit and a big thing. And then they did a follow-up study on this. I forget the details, so I may be paraphrasing a little bit here. So I'm sorry, Tony, if I don't get all the exact details right. But the essential underlying point is true. And so they found in the follow-up study that most of the people didn't even read the book. And I think this went later on. They followed up even further with a course that they gave away very inexpensively. And again, they found people didn't even open the course. They didn't even start. Right? How many of you out there have a bookshelf full of books that are self-help books that you haven't fully read through? You maybe read a little bit, or a self-help course that you bought, but you never did. Right? Why? Because it's somebody else's stuff. And some part of you knows you need to self-define what's important to you. You need to self-define what's usable, practical, detailed, powerful way of living. You cannot live other people's lives. Second-hand lives do not work. They don't have this moreness. They don't have powerful. They don't have joy. Right? It's artificial. It's fake. It's phony. It doesn't work. Doesn't mean you can't learn from others, but I'm just telling you, they can't tell you how to live. And if you're under that mindset, not going to work. Right? Got to make it your own. Got to make it your own. And that's a big part. We'll get into that later. Massive part of what's going on. Making it your own, self-proof. One of the key parts of Way of Impeccability. Extending the spirit warrior's way to provide that focused, comprehensive way of being we seek. Now, spirit warrior, you can say power learner, spirit dancer, life detective, life dancer, however you conceive. And that's a big part of it, to develop your own conception. Again, I use it for convenience, but to do this yourself, creating your own comprehensive, personalized structure of living. Again, same point. I'm repeating it over and over because it's so critical. And it is, I repeat this, and why it's so critical. One, it's something that I don't see anywhere else. And, you can ask the participants who've done other programs. Some of them have done many other extensive courses and programs and, getaways and retreats and God knows what all. Right? Not that they were negative and they didn't get value out of it. Yes, they did. They got lots of value. But did it end up in a comprehensive, personalized structure of living? In other words, some of you can use. No. No, that's what but when they do this, they found the tools to do this themselves, massively life-changing. Right? So this is a big deal. Very big deal. All right, so I'm going to end right there on this quote here from Sophie the Sophisticated. This is a very cool point to start with next time, and I enjoy doing this. I was a bit cautious and not quite sure about sharing the promises, because again, I don't care for promises, but but promises are something that, in this case, you cannot avoid making promises. And any program or course that you're going to do needs to at least some way indicate what you are going to get. In my case here, and what I'm sharing, I know this, all of those points are only in there because I've seen them happen in the participants. And you can ask them, right? So these are what I've seen to happen, not what I hoped would happen, but what I see to happen. Yes, they're also what I hoped would happen, but I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. It's real. So are they promises? They promises for you, but from my point of view, they aren't promises. They more like I'm saying, well, this is what I've seen happen, and this is, if you do the things as intended, then in all likelihood, 99.9% chance it will happen to you. Anybody who says it will and gives you a 100% guarantee is full of it. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that is. Yeah. 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 Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Okay. Yeah. 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 Somebody making a comment about toolboxes and saying that they thought toolboxes only need to open occasionally when needed. Yeah. So no problem there. So let me make this comment here on toolboxes. This is a great point. Thank you for making this person. They sent it to me in a private message, so I'm just abstracting it and making it general because I don't want to necessarily share this, but it's a good point they make. And as a general point, that's what we're going to learn is to, yes, sometimes the toolbox is there only when something happens, but the toolbox we're going to acquire is a toolbox that's always open, and the tools will magically come into your hand as you need them. You won't even need to reach in, because appropriateness is absolutely one of the key focuses that we got. It's something that influences everything, this power conception of appropriateness. So this is a magical toolbox. Furthermore, this toolbox is so magic that it doesn't just contain tools, but it can also create them on the spot. Even if you've never seen that tool before, suddenly you look in your hand, oh my goodness, what's this? Oh, what do I need to do? What am I doing again? What's my intent? What am I? Oh, clarity. Oh, okay. I'm clear what I'm, this tool is exactly what I need. Oh, wonderful, right? You made it on the spot. This is going to happen. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. Yeah. All right. Brilliant. Okay. So we'll end right there. And again, if anybody's watching this on the replay, please make the comments. I will respond to each and every one of them. You may get more than you expect, but that's just how I am. So please do. All right. So bye-bye. Bina, before I go, anything you wish to add?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing such a detailed sharing about this whole way of impeccability thing. Just want to add that there is a huge difference between false claims or even claims and promises.
Exactly.
So it's an intent behind that, what you are saying about the promises. So because this is something you are actually giving your consent towards, that yes, this is what you are going to get. So I think that everybody here will understand. And thank you so much everyone who joined us: Erica, Jane, Janelle, Ryan, Cheryl, Norma, Robin Zewell, John Cooper, George Nula, and Chester, and Renonos, Pauline. If I'm not pronouncing your name right, so please forgive me for that. And Jane Bautista also. So there were so many there. Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Fantastic. Yes, I didn't know some of those had joined because I was so focused on what I'm doing, and screen share I couldn't see. But man, I'm pleased to hear some of those names. Some of them I recognize and know. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate this. This is a very big deal for me, what I'm doing. And please, if you are here, I'm going to be doing this next Friday again. I'll post the event and all this, and I'll be continuing. And I really get into the meat and potatoes and the details next week. Now I'm basically just sharing the overall, more in general, but I'm really going to get into really detailed stuff, really cool stuff next week. So please, come again, and I really appreciate you being there. This is, like I said, this is a very big deal what I'm doing. It's not a simple thing, as you'll see as we go through it all. So very cool. Thank you, Bina. That was awesome. Thank you for naming everybody. Thank you for naming everybody. I love that. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. So
bye for now, everyone.
Yes. Stop live stream. Bye-bye. See you in comments.
Yes.
Okay, I've stopped that, and let me end. So I'll end and then come back on the phone. So come right back, right, Bina?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. End meeting for all.